forever and always, at one with the light and the dark, the forms and the formless, and objects and clearly defined borders are impossible to clutch onto. Everything merges, swirls, dances, melts into everything else. Houses and trees and people are no longer houses and trees and people, but whirlpools in the ocean of experience. But they can never be fully believed in, fully invested in. Attention cannot possibly invest itself fully in something that it knows is temporary, transparent, and not a thing in itself. Instead of things, here there are only modulations. Instead of objects, here there are only passing shapes. Instead of form, here there is only formlessness playing with its own potential. You find yourself in an open wood, stood under trees, with brown leaves on the ground which merge with the tufts of green grass and seem to sway beneath you. Before you is a young girl in a white dress. She stands beside a tree and touches it with her left hand, then closes her eyes. It looks as though she is communicating with the tree, and she seems to belong to the whole experience before you. The big trees, the brown terrain, the white clouds in the distance just above the trees. The girl takes her hand away from the tree and walks towards you as though she is floating. Her hat has a red ribbon tied around it, and it is dipped so low that it is hard to see her face. You lift it up slightly and look into her eyes. They smile. You walk together back down the path and come to a town. In the centre of the town is a boulevard. The sky is now a consistent grey, and the colours of the town are pale and faded. White, blue, and browny yellows. Thin trees line the boulevard where a few people walk, going about their days. A woman with a child, an old lady. They seem to drift by as though they are part of the city streets. Their long, curved dresses stiffly bouncing as they walk. Shops and apartment blocks line each side of the boulevard, but it doesn't feel closed in and stifling like many cities do. It feels spacious and quiet. The leaves on the trees have fallen, and their bareness resembles the bareness of the city streets. As you pass a cafe window, you look in and a woman catches your eye. First because of her red hair, which sticks up far above her head, and then because of the sadness in her eyes. She smokes and drinks a beer and pierces her lips as though something grave is on her mind. On the seat next to her is a bunch of dry flowers or herbs. I wonder what she's going to use those for, you wonder as you pass. Just outside the city, you come to a restaurant on the right with a big white front and a balcony on the second floor. Ivy and roses grow from the top of the balcony and down the sides, weaving their way across the front of the restaurant. As you look up at the people standing and smoking and chatting on the balcony, you see the sky behind. It is now a shimmering yellow and brings a warm glow to the evening. Inside the restaurant, yellowy wooden chairs surround tables covered with white linen cloths. Each table has a blossoming bunch of flowers on it, most white, some yellow and red and brown. The walls are lined with paintings of scenic countrysides, and the walls themselves seem to vibrate in the light which glows from the hanging circular lampshades overhead. You sit down with the woman to eat. After food and a few drinks, you find yourself nodding off. Suddenly you are stood beside a riverbank. You are alone. All around you are wild flowers and trees filled with yellow and green leaves. Through the foliage, the clear blue water of the river reflects a bridge. You sit down on the soft ground and it feels like you are in a sanctuary of wildlife, just beyond the world of man-made structures like bridges and roads. Somehow the contrast makes the wildlife seem more alive than ever. After some time of sitting here peacefully, you turn to walk back along the river and come to a walkway which passes under another bridge. This bridge carries trains across, and just then a steam train, bellowing smoke from its nostrils, chugs over the bridge carrying passengers who look quietly out of the window. Beyond this bridge is another, further in the distance. You are back in the man-made world. Little wooden boats bob up and down on the riverbank as the rippling water peters and patters, carrying the reflections of the bridges and boats, yet holding its pure, untainted essence intact. A woman in a luxurious pink dress, holding a bright red umbrella, walks ahead of you on the walkway. Her walk is so elegant it seems out of place beside the coarse world of trains and bridges and metal. She is like the water, still holding her essence intact. The scene reminds you of a painting you once saw from Japan of people crossing a wooden bridge in the rain. The rain cut through the painting like knife marks and perfectly portrayed a heavy downpour. The people on the bridge were wet, holding little wooden hats over their heads and hurrying to get to shelter. But they were also alive, just like this woman before you. They had not lost their essence. The rain was not a burden to them. It was simply a playful inconvenience. On the water in the painting was one solitary boat, more like a plank of wood, with one solitary man rowing it. The rain must have tasted so sweet to him, cold perhaps, and annoying, but a sweet reminder of life's dance. You realise that you have been staring at the woman in front and have been transfixed by her bright clothes for quite some time. You are now somehow in a garden. The garden is lined with a wooden fence, and in the middle is one lone tree. A pink, blossoming tree, playfully and wildly stretching its thin branches out in every direction beneath the blue sky. Where the tree meets the earth, they spiral into each other, and it is impossible to differentiate between the tree and the ground. Such vibrancy and life in that still, yet perpetually dancing pink tree. It is reminiscent of the woman's pink clothes. You look around for her, but she is gone. You are in the countryside now. You must have walked an exceedingly long way. As you walk, all the clouds in the sky disperse, and it becomes a solid block of blue. The heat of the sun warms through your whole body. You come to another riverbank. The water ripples and reflects the bridge as it did before, but everything else is different. The bridge is small and made of stone. Over it passes not a steam train, but a small horse and carriage. Long grass lines the banks where local folk wash their clothes in the river. The sky and the water are the same bright blue, and the heat shimmers in the air. The water looks so refreshing. Suddenly you feel an urge to go swimming, so you take off your clothes and go for a dip. The local folk laugh and point, and you wave and smile at them. The cool water soothes your skin. After this, you walk through hayfields where huge haystacks are piled up. They are so large that the local workers need ladders to climb them. You pass by yellow provincial farmhouses with green wooden shutters on the windows and doors, and hot, dark farm workers who seem to sear in the afternoon sun. After a long day in the hot countryside, your thirst draws you to the local village and into a cafe. A vase of sunflowers stand by the door as you enter. The bright yellow flowers merge with the yellow wall behind them, as though they are growing out of it. Each flower has its own unique personality, one jagged and wild, another round and wholesome. Again, you notice that something so still can be so alive. Something so motionless can dance with perpetual motion. The cafe is so cosy and welcoming that you stay till nightfall. When the orange lights come on in the cafe, it instantly turns from a light village bistro to a sultry haven for the nocturnal. The pool table sits in the middle of the room, which you see for what feels like the first time, as though it just arose from the ground to fit the vibe of night. The walls take on their true colour, it seems, a dark orangey red, and the green ceiling comes to life. Wine and liquor bottles sparkle in the orange light behind the counter, and the customers slouch and drink and talk in their own worlds. The waiter picks up a pull cue and nods at you. You oblige and pick one up too. The shadows and colours and people all seem to merge as though they are made of wax, as though your whole experience is shaped from one big ball of melted wax. Who knows how long you spend in this melted, nocturnal world, playing pool, drinking refreshing drinks on ice, chatting slowly and forgetfully to the waiter. When you do step outside, the streets seem alive, like a little model world beneath the large stars shimmering in the navy sky. On one side, the cobbled street is lined with dimly lit shops and apartments, with orange lights bouncing from their windows. Their shutters are open to let the warm air in, and you can hear talk and laughter coming from within. On the other side, a bustling cafe with tables outside glows and gleams with yellow light. A light within a glass lantern hangs from a canopy at the front of the cafe and radiates yellow light, making the customers and waiters and tables and walls shine. Guitar music rings out from inside the cafe and spills out into the street. You walk slowly down the cobbled street. A horse and cart trot by. The night is surprisingly busy but calm and welcoming. The stars hang between the buildings and shine big and bold with white halos surrounding them. The cobbled street winds on down through houses and shops, and soon you are coming out of the town. Now there is only the odd cottage here and there, a stone church, trees and bushes and dirt roads. You continue on and walk up a hill. Here you can look out over the small town. The church spire points up out of the sporadic cottages. The hills in the distance look like dark blue ocean waves, heaving and sighing in the evening. A cypress tree stands about 10 feet away and swirls its way up into the majestic night sky. From here, the stars are bolder than ever, like dancing jewels in the dark navy atmosphere. The clouds above twirl and spiral like children playing with each other, and the ones in the distance glide up the contours of the hills on the horizon. The colours of the night seem more alive than those of the day. The night seems to swallow you. For hours you sit, or stand, or walk. It doesn't matter which. You are lost in a dream. A wakeful dream. A clear, wakeful, alive dream. A dream that feels more lucid and real than any waking moment. Hours pass and soon the dawn is here. You are now in the countryside, sitting in a cornfield. The morning sky is a pale green and white. Clouds still swirl and play, but less vibrantly, more like they are stretching their arms and preparing for the day. The dream is still alive though. It hasn't died with the breaking of the dawn. The cypresses still swirl up towards the clouds. The blue hills still heave like waves, as the fields and the bushes simmer like flames on a fire. And you are part of this dream. None of it is separate from you. You too are swaying and swirling, burning and playing, unable to find the borders of yourself, unable to find any solidity within yourself. You are intimately one with the melting experience, wax on the same candle, waves in the same ocean. You continue walking through olive trees and fields and rocky hills. A blooming array of irises suddenly stops you in your tracks. Deep, bright blue flowers burst forth on the ends of green stalks. You look intensely at them. They seem to hold a whole world. The lines of William Blake come to mind. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hands, and eternity in an hour. Words like infinity and eternity don't have much meaning when you look at a wild iris. The iris is so small, yet infinity, eternity, and all heavens and earth seems to exist within it, dance within it, as it, with it. For one brief spring or summer, infinity grows as an iris, and eternity as a stalk, the face of all existence, the ocean within the drop. A path takes you down into a small village. At the head of the village stands a big old church. It seems to grow out of the ground, its edges and roofs and windows more curved than straight, like a living organism. The sky is darker now, and seems to loom over the dark church. The aliveness has not left though. The paths that weave around the building carry a local woman, as though they were currents in the sea. Beside the paths are grassy banks covered with yellow and white daffodils. The aliveness is not only in the colourful and bright, it is here too, in the gloomy, sultry village, in the dark church which speaks of some mysterious and ancient secret, in the blue but heavy sky which hangs close and would seem stifling to some. But the mystery of life dwells in the unknown, the uncertain, the potentially ominous. Life in its totality includes the dark as well as the light, the sorrow as well as the joy. Feeling at one with this brings a peace over the whole tapestry of melting wax before you, which you are intrinsically part of. In this peaceful space, you wander out into the fields. The day seems even darker now, as though a black cape has been thrown over the blue sky and is slowly falling down upon it. The fields are a bright yellow, however, and look defiantly upwards at the looming heavens above. Black crows squawk and flap over the fields, seemingly coming from the black cape above and returning to it, perhaps made of it, like messengers and reminders of some ancient mystery. No more fighting this world, this experience, this moment. No more trying to make it lighter, easier, more colourful. This is enough. This is more than enough. This is the beauty of now revealing itself. Let all the last vestiges of separation dissolve. Dissolve into the cornfields and the ominous skies and the black crows. This is peace. This dissolving and melting and merging is peace. You are at peace now, forever and always, at one with the light and the dark, the forms and the formless, the colours and the colourless, unified, whole, where worlds and heavens meet eternity and infinity. The stark separation of form has been healed in the loving arms of now.